Hi, I'm Beth from So Country, and today's tutorial is for the Veris bag from Lacus Designs. This is a new designer for me. This is the first time I ever sewed one of her patterns. I asked for suggestions in my Facebook group which one to sew, and someone suggested this bag because it has a really unique front panel that is perfect for featuring like a focus print. So if you have a fabric that's kind of important to you, or you kind of want to show off, or maybe you don't have a lot of it, this front panel is perfect. So I loved it, started sewing it, and it was just a joy to sew. It was so much fun. I love the shape. I love the size. It does have a recessed zipper here at the top. Your handles attach here, or the strap I should say attaches here at the top. Not really any tricky spots on this. It comes together pretty easily. I chose to use cotton woven with this one, and this is a soft vinyl on the sides. The structure for me is great. I love how it's a little slouchy. For my next bag, the one I'm sewing today, I'm going to bump up my interfacing just a little bit. Honestly, I wanted to do one just the same with the same slouch because I liked it, but I wanted to give you guys an option to kind of see what it looked like with a little bit more structure so you could choose. So this is the bag, this is the pattern. I'll have the link for it in the description. And let's go ahead and start going over the pattern pieces we're going to need to make this bag. Before we start talking about all the pieces, I want to make mention that I am finally getting my own sewing room. So if the quality of my sound is a little echoey, or if the light or the positioning is not perfect just yet, know that it is a work in progress. And I will eventually be getting better quality, better things set up. So let's talk about the pieces we need to make this bag. Let's start at the top and work our way down. We will have a strap. My strap is inside the bag, but for my strap, I'm just going to do a typical strap that I make. I just cut out my fabric, and I do have it interfaced with an SF101 equivalent. And then I will just fold this as a piece of double fold tape, and I will attach adjustable bar and 2 swivel hooks. The pattern tells us we only need 1 crossbody tab. The other side, the strap actually goes in. The strap would actually just fit in like this. I wanted my strap to be removable, so what I did was I cut out 2 crossbody tab pieces. The pattern says to interface this with the SF101. I find that the bulk gets too much and my machine has a struggle top stitching. So what I'll do is I'll fold this just like a piece of double fold tape. And then when I get to this step right here, I'll just put 1 strip of SF101 in there and then fold it, and I can iron it then, and that will adhere that piece. I will be using some zipper tape. This is number 5 zipper tape. We will have a recessed zipper at the top. We will have 1 inside zipper pocket. And then I'm going to use 2 pieces of zipper tape right here for my sides. This is your exterior side panel. You will have 2 of those. For my exterior side panel, I did interface this with a Royal Pixie Premium. Royal Pixie Premium is kind of in between an SF101 and a Decaville Light, and I just like that extra stability it gives. I did go ahead and decide to use an extra piece of Decaville Light, and I kept it out in the seam allowances, and I just put a little bit on there for extra stability. I didn't want any extra down here because when I attached this pocket, it's strong enough down there. I just wanted a little extra support up here. And so 2 pieces there. For your little slip pockets for the exterior, you'll need 4 pattern pieces cut out like this. All of mine the same print. Exterior and lining is going to be the same. And I do have the Royal Pixie Premium on these. You could definitely do just the SF101 or equivalent. This will be my 2 lining pieces. And my 2 exterior pieces, I went ahead and clipped on my zipper pocket lining piece. I did not interface this piece. You can interface it. So you will have 2 pieces for your zipper pockets if you choose to add the zipper pockets on your side. Let's talk about this front panel piece. This is actually called your exterior middle panel. I am choosing to actually use a panel print for mine. You need two pieces like this. You need your front and your back. I did interface both of these with a premium and a Pixie Heavy, which is your Decaville Light. So you could use an SF101 and Decaville Light. I am definitely keeping that Decaville Light out of the seams. So that is your front and your back of the bag. Those are the pieces you need for your exterior. So now let's look at the interior. The first thing we have is this recessed zipper. That's going to be these two pieces right here. Go ahead and interface those with the SF101. Then you're going to have your zipper. Now your one side of your zipper is going to be the 90-degree fold, but your other side of your zipper will need a zipper tab. So you can just cut out your zipper tab. No need to interface that piece at all. You're going to have a slip pocket on the inside. Even though I don't interface my zipper lining pieces, I always interface my slip pocket pieces because they're kind of standalone. So cut this out, interface with the SF101, and then just go ahead and clip it right sides together because we will sew this just like a traditional slip pocket. One interior zipper pocket lining piece, did not interface that one. We will have two lining pieces. This is your biggest cut you need to make. So if you have a fabric that you have the most of, that would be what we would want to choose for your lining. It's a pretty big cut. So I have two of those, do have the darts cut out at the bottom. That is all the pieces I need to complete this bag. So let's go ahead and get started sewing. So once again, I'm going to sew a pattern out of order. I guess it's just going to be my traditional thing. I want to get this front panel, so I pulled out both of those pieces. First thing I'm going to do is, my cutout darts, I'm just going to fold them right sides together. They should match up pretty perfectly. I'm going to put a crease down a little bit lower. When you have a dart, you're going to sew it with the seam allowance given in the pattern. But the thing is you're not going to start and stop at the end of that dart because it's going to go further down. You start at the edge and you'll have your seam allowance and you'll just carry down with that seam allowance until you run out of material to sew. I'm going to go ahead and clip the rest of my cutout pieces on my dart right sides together and do them the exact same way for both the front and the back panel. So now I have the front and the back darts sewn. I'm going to put these together. I'm going to keep my front pushed out and then my back will be pushed in so they fit together. Start clipping along the bottom side here. Clip them right sides together. I'm going to add just another clip here to keep up higher. Even though I'm not sewing up here, that just kind of helps it not shift. On my sides for this dart, they are going to nest. They are going to go in opposite directions. I am not butterflying them. Clipping all along this bottom edge of the two main panels. Okay, once you have that bottom clipped, you're going to sew from side to side with the seam allowance given in the pattern. When I sew this, I'm going to flip it up like this and then it'll kind of roll and you'll see it flip down. So that way I'm always sewing on a straight side, not a curved side. Now that I've finished those main front panels, the middle panels, I'm going to go back to work on where the pattern started originally, and that is with those side slip pockets. I am adding the optional zipper pocket. You can skip this step if you want. So I pulled out those exterior top pieces, but I'm just going to set them aside. And I have out all my slip pocket pieces. I'm going to take my two interior pieces and set them aside and pull out the two exterior pieces. I went ahead and clipped on my zipper pocket pieces. The pattern goes over the measurements for how far down you draw your zipper box, the measurements of your box, and how you place it right sides together with your exterior slip pocket pieces. Let's sew directly on the lines I drew. Okay, so I have both of the boxes sewn on. I'm just going to take the clips out that I had at the bottom, fold these in half, wrong sides together, just so I can start my cut. My cut will go through all the layers and be right in the middle of that box I sewed. Then I'll open it back up to make sure I can stay in the middle, and I'm going to cut down until I'm about 1/4 to 1/2 of an inch away from the edge, and then I will angle my cuts to get as close to the corner stitches that I can. I will not cut through the stitches, but I'll get as close as I can. Repeat for the opposite side. And after I have that box open, then I'm going to simply push the fabric through. And at this point, I will have to go over to the ironing board. So now that I have that zipper pocket cut out and ironed, you can see the opening clearly. I'm going to put this zipper on the back so that the teeth are in the middle of this opening. When we flip it over, you can see that I have my lining opened up. I want to make sure when I sew this that the lining stays open. I'm going to have my zippers closing in opposite directions. So on the bag, especially since I really am not crazy about my zipper pull, the way I'm going to place this on the bag is so that both of my zipper pulls will be closing towards the back of the bag. So when I look at the bag front facing, I will not see my zipper pulls. I will have mine mirrored. One will be closing this way, one will be closing this way when I sew it. I want to have my teeth centered in the middle. I'm just going to sew 1/8 of an inch away from the folded edge around this box. You can see I've already completed that on this one. The lining is still open on the back, and I will trim down my zipper tape. And then what I'll do is I'll just pull my lining down to where it's flush at the top with the zipper tape. I'll put some clips on the sides, trim this overhang, and sew down the 3 sides of this zipper pocket, closing it completely. We do not need to leave an opening. Have the zipper fully closed and sewn up, trimmed, everything's ready. I'll take my exterior and my lining piece, put them right sides together, matching up all the edges, flip them in place. Sew just along this top curved edge. We will not sew around the bottom. Sew that with the seam allowance given in the pattern. After we sew that together, we'll take these pieces, and you can see they're sewn together. I like to just take time to push open that seam on that curve to kind of help it lay a little flat, and I just run my finger down it. I am going to open these, clip them wrong sides together like this, and you'll have to kind of push that top out, and you'll want to put a clip or something right there, or take it to the ironing board. Roll those seams flat. And then what you're going to want to do is top stitch along this top edge. After you top stitch along that top edge, you're going to take that exterior side panel piece and you are going to match up the bottoms. If you can see, you can mark these as centers. You can fold them in half and find the centers of both of them, but there is a slight flat area on both of these, and I just clip those together, and then I just kind of curve it around and clip all along the sides. You can see that this is going to create like a 3D pocket, and so it'll be sticking out. After you have that clipped, then you are just going to baste. We will just baste from the top all the way around to the other top. I based at 1/8 of an inch, but I will go ahead and lock in the stitches, even though it's a basting stitch, there at the top, just to make sure everything's secure. And then we will have these ready to attach to our main panels. So now we have our side panels completed. Pull back out that main middle we've been working on, and those pockets are going to fit right here. So the way I'm going to do it is you can find your middle. There is a flat spot there that I can find the middle. And so what I'm going to do is I'm going to match up that center seam with that middle spot there. You can put a couple clips right here along that flat spot just so it kind of holds a little bit better, but we won't clip all the way around just yet. After we get this bottom secured, then what we'll do is we'll just come up to the top and clip these pieces up at the top, and that way we can ease the rest of the bag or the rest of the side panel around so that it's evenly clipped. Do that on that other side. Okay, so I have the bag clipped so you can see it from the interior. You can see it from the exterior. I will go ahead and say that at this point I am preferring the lighter interface without using the Decaville light. Now what I'm going to do is I'm going to sew around this clipped edge. I'm going to start sewing like this. This main panel will be against the bed. As I sew this, I'm just going to use the bag and kind of flip it up and around. Make sure you backstitch before you start and stop. Okay, I have the first panel attached. I'm going to take out these clips, and now I'm going to attach my second panel. I'll do it the exact same way, clipping at the bottom, then the tops, and then easing it around, sewing it with the seam allowance given in the pattern. So I've finished sewing the exterior, and I'm going to go ahead, turn everything out, and I can tell I will need to give this bag a really good press. Oh wow, well the shape is great. That is good structure. It really is. It looks so great. The exterior is pretty much done. Let's set this exterior aside and let's start working on our lining. Pull out that lining slip pocket piece. I'm just going to fold that right sides together like we talked about earlier and sew this, leaving the gap in the middle to turn it. Okay, I sewed the slip pocket right sides together. I just trimmed down those corners just a little bit to help it turn. Now I'm going to turn it the right side out. I'll use my stiletto to poke out my corners. Then I will top stitch the top and attach it to the lining. Okay, I'm just going to put my fingers in the sides of the opening and pull so that it will go down kind of on its own. I'll put a few clips there. So I think I'm going to top stitch this and let this be the bottom. Now that I've got that top stitch, I'm going to pull out my lining piece. The pattern tells us how far down we place our slip pocket. So you'll use the measurements given in the pattern. Now that I have the measurement the way I want it, according to the pattern, I'm going to sew down the 3 sides that are unsewn. We will leave the top where we top stitched open. We won't mess with it. And whenever we sew down here at the bottom, that will close up that gap and attach the slip pocket to the lining. This lining piece is done as far as pockets go, so what I'm going to go ahead and do is sew my darts together just like I did on the exterior. I will clip them right sides together and sew with the seam allowance given the pattern. Okay, this lining piece is done. I'm going to set it aside and let's work on the other lining pocket. So for this lining pocket, it's going to be a zipper pocket, and this is actually going to be the way we turn our bag right sides out. Now I'm not going to go through the entire process because we just did that in this video whenever we did our exterior zippers. in our slip pockets. So if you get confused on that, you can go ahead and refer back to that section. But what we do is we place this lining, the zipper lining pocket, and I got mine upside down. We place it right sides down onto our lining. My lining piece is uninterfaced, but you can interface yours if you want. You will draw your box, and the pattern tells you how far to draw your box. The pattern tells you how far down to place your fabric and your material. You'll sew directly on that box and then push your lining through. Put your zipper in just like before, sew around it. And then the only thing different we'll do is we're going to leave the bottom open so we can turn our bag. So I have the zipper pocket lining sewed on the sides, but I left that bottom open. The last step on the lining is to pinch those darts together just like we did with the other one and sew both of them. Now that I have the linings complete, it's time to work on the zippers, the top zipper, the recessed zipper, so that we can finish the bag up. The pattern tells us how far in we're going to place that zipper. So you'll have a mark you'll make on all four of your sides. The two sides on this lining, the two sides on the other lining. It'll be the same on both sides, and that'll be where your zipper stops and where it ends. So let's go ahead and make those marks now. The way I'm going to get my zipper started is I'm going to open it and pull down the edges and just turn it down 90 degrees. I will put a clip right there where I've turned it down. After I make sure that everything looks good, I'll take this out of the machine and I'll just sew along those edges to keep the turned corners in place. We do have a zipper tab that we will put on the end of our zipper, but I'm not going to do that yet. What I'm actually going to do is I'm going to separate these two pieces. Before we attach the zipper to the top of our lining, we need to decide if we want the zipper pocket on the back or the front of the bag. It doesn't matter to me. I'm not worried about it. But if you have a preference, go ahead and decide that now. At this point, I have my zipper taken apart and I have my edge sewn down. I have my two marks made on my lining. I'm going to take my zipper and I'm going to lay it, and I'm going to have the teeth right at that first mark I made. I'm going to sew this zipper on all along this edge. Now I'm just going to baste mine in place because I know the next step, but you could sew with the full seam allowance if you want. This other mark is right here. When I get to that mark, I'll be sewing on. Once I get to that mark, then I'll just pull the zipper down and continue sewing past that and then back stitch a little. So I'm going to hold the stiletto, use my stiletto to hold that zipper in place and just push it down so I can keep going. And you can see it just sews past that, back stitch a little, and that part's done. I am going to repeat this same process for the other side, but for this side I have to have it opposite. So if I try to add this zipper the exact same way, it would be incorrect. So the way you can make for sure you do it right is put these right sides together, and then you'll know that curved edge has to be on this side. The long tail hanging has to be on that side. So just make sure you have that accurate before you attach your zipper to the other side. But you will do the exact same thing, including the veering off, starting and stopping at the measurements given in the pattern. So now that we got the zippers on, let's just make sure we understand the way they look. So the zippers are right sides up on the lining, and so we have them mirrored. So one curve is on this side, one curve is on this side. So now what we're going to do is we're going to, I'll set this one aside, just go away. We're going to attach that, I don't know what it's called, top band? I don't know. But anyway, we're going to attach this piece here. So this is that little curved piece. Go ahead and put it and orientate it the way you know it's going to go. That same curve following the lining of the bag. Now this is the part that I feel like is a little tricky. So the way I do this is I have it matched here. You can also do your centers. You can definitely mark centers and do it that way. But the way I do it is after I've got it the way I want it, then I just carefully flip it down. And then I start here in the middle and put my clips right there. Then what I want to do is instead of like trying to clip it this way, I'm just going to curve this side all the way in and clip it that way to kind of follow that natural curve. Now our zipper tail on this side is still going down. We're going to keep that going down. So whenever we sew these two pieces together, we're going to make sure that we hold that zipper end out of the way. And if you want, you can go ahead and clip it down. If you want to do like that, clip it down here, or you can just use your hand to keep it out of the way while you're sewing. Do the same thing on this other side, pull it all the way around. And just kind of make a bowl shape while you're clipping so you can get the top edges lined up. Okay, you can see that it's not really even laying down flat because of that curve. So I'm not going to try to make it lay down flat. I'm just going to sew it like that. So I'll kind of take this side and I'll even flip it up over there. So that way it takes that pull off. The pull of the fabric on this curve is what I mean. I will sew it just like this to keep it out of the way. Since I'm starting with the side with this zipper tail, I'm also going to keep that pulled out of the way. And I'll just use my thumb to hold it in place. I'll take it over the machine and then I'm just going to sew it with the seam allowance given in the pattern all across that top clipped edge, and that'll connect the two pieces. As I was sewing, you saw me eventually, like it was sewing like this, you saw me eventually kind of do it the opposite way to finish up that curve. Also something else, since you're paying attention to the zipper, you're paying attention to the curve, it's easy to lose sight of your seam allowance. If you're struggling with that, you can always draw the seam allowance on so you don't get confused with that. Now what we're going to do is we're going to lift up this panel. When you lift up this panel, that seam allowance wants to go down. We don't want it to go down though, because we want to connect the panel and this top band gusset piece. We're sewing on this top piece right here. So let's push that seam allowance up, and you're going to sew through this seam allowance, your top band, all the way across that top band. We are not sewing on this part of the zipper tape though. So you can see I top stitched on that top part there. My zipper is going down, which is exactly the way I want. On the back it looks like this. We're going to repeat this same process for the other lining panel to get it attached. Then I will come back, we'll attach the zipper pull, the tab, and start finishing up this bag. Okay, so I have both of the linings ready to be attached together. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to start clipping them together, and once I get everything clipped and orientated the right way, then I'll add my zipper pull. First thing I'll do is I'll just clip that side seam, and then I'm going to clip a little bit on the top. Try to make for sure that I have these as even as possible, because then I can pull my teeth together. I'm going to look inside and see that they're straight there, and just run along and make sure everything looks good. And they're pretty much even. You can see which is what I would expect. If they were really off, I would want to go back to check to see if something is twisted or something like that. So now I'm going to look and see if my zipper looks straight, if everything looks even, and it does. Take out your zipper tab, and let's just fold this exactly the way we would any other zipper tab. If you're worried about the raw edges, you can fold in your raw edges. I'm not worried about the raw edges fraying, but definitely feel free to change that up or use a raw edge vinyl. So I'm just going to make a typical zipper tab, and then I'll top stitch across here, and I'll trim up my sides. Now I need to clip all around this lining piece. The first thing I'll do is I'll match up this top seam, put a clip there, and we're going to clip all the way around. I will nest these darts, so I'll push one out and have the other one in. And you can see I'm going to nest the seams. Let's even out that bulk a little bit. And when we start sewing this, make sure you use the proper seam allowance at the top, or you will risk not having your bag, your lining fit properly. And then I'm just going to sew from one side all the way up the other, leaving the top alone. So I got everything finished with the lining. I'm going to make sure that I have the zipper pocket open and the main zipper open. Before we finish this, I want to go ahead and do my hardware for my straps. So I just took those strap connectors and fold them like I said, a double fold piece of tape. I did get a piece of interfacing and I'm just going to stick this in there. And I'm going to top stitch down both long edge. I'm going to take my hardware and slide it on, and then we will attach it to the exterior of our bag. Pull out your exterior piece. I hope you can see that on camera, okay? And so when you pull out your exterior piece, you will see this flat piece right here on the top of that side. You're just going to clip it there. The D-ring will be down, and you're going to have a little bit of that connector hanging off just for security. You're going to stitch that in place. You're going to do the same thing for the other side, and then your D-rings are connected. So now I'm going to put my exterior into my lining. I definitely want to make sure my bag closes to the left. So that's the way I'm going to insert it in there. So make sure you orientate your zipper the way you want it before you insert your bag in to the lining. Once you get your exterior into your lining, you're going to make sure the right side's together and that everything is orientated the way you want. You're going to push down your D-rings so that they are inside in between your exterior and lining. You will match up the center of that D-ring with the center seam on your lining. Go around the rest of this and add clips into place. If at any point you notice that the lining and the exterior aren't fitting, make sure you push the exterior down in there. Sometimes I would have a little gap and I'd be like, oh no, it's not going to fit. But whenever I push it down in there and straighten everything up, it fit perfectly. And that happened with both of mine. I got a little nervous, but both times they fit great. So now what we're going to do is just sew around. I'm going to use the seam allowance in the pattern. I'm going to open my bag up. I'm going to slip it inside underneath the needle like this, and then just sew all the way around, making sure I keep the top part pulled back so it doesn't get in the way. Now that you have everything sewn, I'm just going to go ahead and trim off some of this edge right here. Not a lot, just a little bit. And now I'm going to pull the bag through that opening. Okay, now at this point you're going to take this zipper part that's up and we're going to push it down. So I get my lining and kind of separate the two so that I can roll that zipper down. And I'm going to do this all around the bag. Now I have it clipped all the way around the top. I'm just going to top stitch all around to have everything, to keep everything nice and in place, and also to have just a nice finished edge. I am going to choose to top stitch from the wrong side. Yes, I know it might be a little tricky. I might go off edge here a little, but I don't feel like turning the bag inside out. But I'm just going to go slow and top stitch all the way around. Just know that you can turn the bag the inside out so that you can top stitch from the right side. So I top stitched around the top of the bag. I closed up the zipper pocket opening that I used to turn the bag. The only thing I have left to do is still make my strap, but I'll do that off camera. Bottom line, this bag is gorgeous. I love the shape. I love the style. I need to give it a really good press. I am 100% torn at this point. I love that really good definition on the sides. This one I do think looks just gorgeous. So I really don't know which way I prefer. Both ways made beautiful bags. The pattern is great. It's such a fun pattern. I hope you feel like it was as quick as I did to get this bag sewn for the cool shape that it is. Love this pattern. Love the designer. We'll definitely be making more of her patterns on my channel. It takes me a while to get to everything, but definitely you will see more. Check her pattern out. The link is in the description. The fabric is from So Girly Fun. I'll have the link for it. Join both of their Facebook groups so you can look and see what all they have. Join my Facebook group so you can show me whatever you're working on. Even if I haven't made a video on it, you can still post it in that group. I hope you have a great day sewing. If you have any suggestions for videos I should do next, just let me know. And thanks so much for watching.